It gives me good ideas when I need them, and when I don't, it stays quiet to itself.
Wow. It's an actual thing.
Yep.
Nice.
Well, Josh, if engineering were transmission fluid, you would be the burnt red ooze dripping from that 71 Malibu in your front yard.
Yes, welcome to Engineer versus Designer.
The podcast.
For product designers, engineers, and anyone who likes 5 heaping truckloads of co-created automotive manufacturing and design in the morning. My name is Josh, mechanical engineer of SolidSmack.com.
He is, and my name is Adam, industrial designer of CADJunkie.com. Each week's show comes to you in 3 turbocharged halves. This week we're talking automotive innovation and the power of the crowd. First, we get a good old fact smack courtesy of SolidSmack.com.
Yep, followed by design process tips, tricks, and insight compliments of CADJunkie.com.
And today we are honored to have with us the one and only Jay Rogers, CEO of Local Motors in Phoenix, Arizona, and Alex Fiechter, engineering and maker community manager of the same. Welcome, you two.
Gentlemen, if you had a choice between having your legs removed and your body permanently grafted to the seat of a 79 Pinto, or chugging 1 full liter of motor oil, come what may, which would you choose?
Oh, I would definitely chug the motor oil and top it off.
Oh,
all right.
Not the Pinto?
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, well, sit tight. We'll be hearing more from you as the show goes on. Speaking of ill-advised prosthetic surgeries, Josh Mings of SolidSmack.com graft the forearms of ignorance to the pneumatic impact wrenches of knowledge. What have you got for us
This week's SolidSmack Fact Smack is brought to you by the Mojo 3D printer. Now you can have 3D printing right at your desktop at a remarkably low cost. The magic of Mojo, there's really no limit to your creativity. See it at mojo3dprinting.com. Now, today we're talking about automotive innovation, and what better way to start it all off than to slap your ears with a few fast facts about the first cars.
Josh,
Yes.
who invented the first automobile?
It wasn't Mr. Ford.
It wasn't?
No. The first automobile we know of was steam-powered.
Built in 1672 by Ferdinand Varibiest
Yes.
as a toy for the Emperor of China.
Yep, the first electric automobile was invented around 1832, built by Robert Anderson of Scotland and powered by, get this, non-rechargeable primary cells.
What happened to the electric car?
The internal combustion engine.
Thanks to Carl Benz in 1885. I recognize that name. This 3-wheeled auto sported a 4-stroke gasoline engine invented by Mr. Benz himself.
Yep, and in 1886, Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach modified a stagecoach for the first ever 4-wheeled automobile.
Which was a 4-speed transmission engine with the ability of insane speeds of up to, get this, 10 mph.
And in 2010, the Local Motors Rally Fighter hit production testing as the first co-created vehicle. Our special guests, Jay Rogers and Alex Fiechter, helped make it happen.
Unbelievable!
Yes, the two people leading the charge, Jay Rogers, CEO of Local Motors, and Alex Fiechter, engineering and community manager of Local Motors. Welcome once again, guys. First question, the Rally Fighter. First car brought to production by Local Motors. Is it, in fact, the most badass car that has ever existed on the planet?
Wow. Well, other than that 3-wheeled Gottlieb Daimler Auto Benz, I have to say yes.
Yeah? Okay. Well,
Right
I mean,
on.
more on the Rally Fighter in just a minute. Local Motors is this amazing community. Over the weekend, I was telling some family what it is and failing miserably to do so. So, for the fam, what is Local Motors?
Wow. So Local Motors, in a nutshell, is a new way of bringing cars of design, development, and retail. So it's a new way of bringing cars to the market. We are a community of vehicle innovators, and we are a micro factory construct where you come in and you build your own car in our factory. So it's kind of online and physical all together.
Love it. The idea is just simply ingenious. Lots of other people are starting up businesses through small rounds of funding, Kickstarter projects, bootstrapping. How did Local Motors get its start?
Awesome question, because the truth is the notion of crowdfunding is reflecting the fact that it's really hard to do hardware startups in this third industrial revolution in the traditional ways of getting things funded. We got ourselves funded traditionally, I would say, in some ways by private investors. And it was just really hard and very slow and kind of backward in terms of a way of doing it. We have this great community who loves what we do, but we didn't ask them to fund what we were doing. We funded it through a more traditional method, not venture capital, but I would say private people who really wanted to see this happen. And in the future, I think we'll do more and more of funding projects through the crowd.
Well, when did you start? When did you first have the idea and decide to go down this path?
Let's see. I was in my mother's womb, and
it was dark and kind of wet, and
I met baby Stewie. Yeah. No, so I mean, look, it's been happening all my life, sort of warming up to it. My grandfather was in the automotive industry. He owned Indian Motorcycle, and so I really, always loved the idea, but never thought I would actually do it. And in 2004, more recently, when I was a Marine deployed in Iraq, I decided that this was my chosen calling and what I was going to do. And so I started about that really in earnest in 2005, and we incorporated the company in 2007.
Excellent. Well, we're definitely going to talk more about some of the amazing projects you got coming up. Adam, I think they're going to need some drivers for that Mars car, so...
Strap me in, baby. Strap me in.
Right on. We'll be right back. Adam O'Hearn of CADJunkie.com. Fill the depleted turbo tanks of our ignorance with the nitrous oxide of knowledge. What's on your mind?
This week's CAD Junkie Q&A is brought to you by Mojo 3D Printers, a world-class professional 3D printer for only 185 buckaroos each month. To find out how you can give your big idea a little mojo. That was kind of funny. Isn't that cute? Visit mojo3dprinting.com.
Today we're chatting with CEO of Local Motors, Jay Rogers, and Engineering and Community Manager, Alex Fiechter, also of Local Motors.
Okay, fellas, in the third half, we're going to talk about your background, your inspiration, all that kind of stuff. But first, we just want to hear a little bit about your design process, from more of a technical standpoint. So the process of developing an entire car, from the shape of the car to systems, it's a huge undertaking, and it takes a lot of people and a lot of time. You've successfully completed 2 vehicles so far using the power of co-creation that you described earlier. So what's the basic process like?
Just to be clear, we've completed two models of cars so far, and the process so far we've been doing it is actually not that much unlike a standard process. It's just in the way that we engage the group that we do. We're dealing with a huge community of people in various disciplines from engineering to design, and really I'd say that the biggest challenge behind all of it is just setting a tempo and keeping that group organized and focused as they move along through what really, when you break it out, looks very much like a traditional development process. There's a conceptual design period, we go through a packaging period, we go through a component sourcing period, we go through an integration period. As far as the outline of it, it should feel very familiar, but when we actually when we set it up to give it to the community or to feed the process to the community, that's where it really gets interesting, because the process, we have a recreational workforce essentially, and that's the main hurdle to overcome. It's got to be
I like
fun.
That term. Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's got to be fun, and people have to be engaged. And so in the same way that we have people build cars, we give them the shiny bits to put on their car, and we take care of the grunt craft work. Similarly with our development processes, the participants have to come away feeling like they've had a good time, they've learned something, all of these things.
It's a very transparent process. You can see all the activity there on the side. It's great. Now, you've teamed up with Siemens, who's providing the Local Motors community with Solid Edge Design 1 software. This is the first foray into subscription pricing for software by Siemens. How is the community using that?
Well, I was just going to say, I think I'll jump in on this one. It's the first foray into the monthly subscription pricing for parametric CAD by anyone in the market. And so I think that the reason why we did it is because nobody did that. And we asked, we put out a challenge to the entire CAD community to say, low-cost subscription of professional-grade CAD. That's what we wanted. And how's the community using the software? For low-cost access to professional-grade CAD. and on a monthly basis. I mean, it's kind of like you get annoyed by AT&T when they tell you you can have this phone for the low cost of whatever, but you have to sign up for 2 years. In this case, it's not like that. You can have client-based software, which means for the speak of the English language, it sits on your computer and the files are yours, and they sit on your computer. And while the cloud is all that in a bag of chips to people, the fact is this notion of doing CAD processes, professional grade, dimensionable, controllable, parametric, synchronous CAD, which in speak of the English language means you can make amazing automotive projects that can be sent to a CAM machine or to a large auto company or a supplier, i.e. not Google SketchUp, i.e. not 123D, those things. It is, it's the kind of thing where you want to trust that the files are yours and you can use them, and that somebody's not saying, oh, and by the way, if you use this for a business, we're going to send the feds down to you and, put you in jail.
Yeah, you guys are doing serious work with big, complicated projects. You got to have an industrial CAD system. Now, I mean, but managing that, I'm just thinking about the complexity of managing a team of the size that you're dealing with. Not to mention the fact that, I'm sure you're dealing with people with varying degrees of skill and varying organizational skills. I mean, how do you manage all of that data, and what other barriers would you say there are to effective collaboration that you're trying to knock down?
Well, as far as the management goes, I mean, really the key to running good collaborative, co-creative development is getting the community to start managing itself. Like you said, you have many people within the community that have different backgrounds, different skill sets, but that means that they all have a given context to give feedback to their peers. And so that would be one way of you set up, we can set up an overall structure on our end, but then you really find that if you set the right tone, the community begins to manage itself through some of these development efforts and check and balance itself. As far as some of the other barriers, I mean, mentioning some other tools that we've been using Catch 123D quite a bit. We've got in Design One, we've got the ability to modify a number of different formats of CAD. It's a very flexible software. You can pick up somebody else's file and start working on it as if it was your own. But how do you get that file if you're working with existing parts? Catch 123D is a great scanning service for that. So bringing things from the physical into the virtual.
Right. So for those, let me just jump in. For those who don't know, 123D Catch lets you take photos of an object, and then off in the cloud, they stitch those together and try to make a 3D polygonal mesh out of that then you're bringing into Solid Edge, so you can use it, I presume, as an underlay while you're building?
Right. You could use it as an underlay, or just if you're working on an assembly, you can use it there. And then the third stage of that process is, so we've gone from the physical to the virtual, and then coming back out of that, once you've done the work, once you've authored your designs, you need to bring that back out of the virtual, returning into the physical. And that's why we've set up our service, our making service, the Fab Shop, using the Pinocchio interface to allow online fabrication and online production of physical parts that get delivered to you in the mail. So you could use Design One or your CAD authoring software of choice to do, in this case so far, 2D designs, so DXF files, and you could upload those, and you could have sheet stock cut out up to 3/4 inch sheet steel or aluminum, and we'll be adding thicknesses and materials, as we go along, but that's what we're starting out with. So it's really about connecting these dots from, bringing in the physical world, being able to work with the designs that exist, being able to author your own stuff and create your own designs, and then being able to fulfill those designs and bring them out and manufacture them so that you can actually you can actually take advantage of all the work that you've done.
And I would also add that sort of the primary collaborative tool that we use is the Forge itself, which basically allows you to upload your files, your assets in either CAD or in Photoshop or in PDF or in JPEGs, PNGs, and allows you to make revisions and allows you to make comments, have them liked, share them, compete, enter them into competitions, and also to develop a reputation based off of that work. So that's sort of a central collaborative element. And then one other thing I'd want to add is that, we are not a one-tool shop, both either over software or physical tools. You need the right tool for the job, and we like to learn from people as we go along. Sometimes scanning can work really well with, an outside laser scanner, adjusted by dots, something like, a Z-scan, and other times you can use 123D catch, and other times you need a really more of a pro machine, like a Faro or other things like that. And you got to use the right tool for the job and know when to use it. And then as far as the physical making of stuff, we do everything from Omax water jets to laser cutters to CNC plasma cutters, right tool for the job. And that's the focus of trying to empower our community.
Now, on the Forge website, there's a lot of activity. There's, as you said, there's not just cars. People are working, submitting a whole lot of projects. How are the designs chosen?
It could be any number of things. If you're talking about any of our sort of highline competitions, like we do with Shell Oil, or like we do with B-Twin, or how we're going to do with Peterbilt, the client basically does make a choice whether they want to have the community do their choice, whether they'd like to have input from the community, whether they're going to pick one of the designs and have the community pick further designs. We're really very flexible in how we do it within our competitions. As for the designs that are simply present on the community, on the Forge, because the community members have put them there, and they're doing their own collaborative work outside of the contracts and large companies that we might bring in. On that side of things, it's really the community raising the designs up. And if there's a huge block of enthusiasm behind a particular design, that's going to get that design noticed through the mechanisms that Jay was mentioning, with likes and follows and the various social spaces that we have on the Forge. But what we've really been working on now is what are some of the other ways that these designs can get essentially raised up outside of Local Motors, because we are, of course, one company and we're still small. So, what are some of the other ways that we can bring in interest from outside people with the ability to realize these designs, to come in and start, backing and raising those designs up on their own, such that they might get built.
I think that's the amazing thing about this whole new movement, is the outward focus of it. I really love that. Josh, wait a minute. Did you just replace your torso with an engine block so that you now have 6 pistons forcing motor oil through your veins at high pressure?
Feels so good.
Okay, we're gonna be right back.
And welcome back. Today we have the great pleasure to speak with Jay Rogers, CEO of Local Motors, and Alex Fiechter, Engineering and Community Manager of Local Motors, shifting crowd-powered auto manufacturing into top gear.
We wanted to have Jay and Alex on the show because Local Motors is leveraging co-creation for complex engineering.
Mixing things up.
Indeed. And there's more we want to find out about how they plan to, take over the world, pretty much.
So you guys have got to have a huge passion for cars, and we got to know more about where that came from. What were your early inspirations for cars, for design and engineering?
So on my side, my background was a tinkerer growing up. I was the kind of guy, I didn't like to fix things. I liked to take things and put them together for the first time and then take them apart and put them back together. I would call myself more of a maker than a fixer. And I think of those things as being very different. And that's sort of my background as I started to work on cars early. Really like to think about putting things together and seeing how they would work. And so my early inspirations were the things that you could understand as a kid. And so for me, I worked on a Porsche 356A. That was the first car I ever worked on. It was pretty easy to understand, nice. Flat floor, air cooled, teardrop body, and really easy. Might have bad driving dynamics with all that weight in the rear, but otherwise it was a very simple car to learn on. And as far as inspirations for me, I was taken at a young age to see a fantastic collection called the Schlumpf collection in France. And basically, it has some of the original Bugatti Tipo 41s and the 57s. And for me, looking at Ettore Bugatti's first work in automotive, as in style and engineering together, was truly inspirational. And I came back from that visit and I thought, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be able to build turn dashes, but I also want to be able to build amazing race cars or great, limousines or what have you. And that was really my first inspiration in automotive.
It's fantastic, Jay Rogers.
Very
And
cool.
Alex Fiechter, what about you?
Well, I would say I would agree with Jay that I was sort of more of a maker, because I was always interested in basically where was the next area that I could push whatever was my current project. But I'd say I was a fixer by necessity, because most of the things that I had as my canvases, beginning with lawn tractors and moving to 1975 Honda CL360 Scrambler, required a lot of fixing on the front end. So I basically I went from tractors to motorcycles to cars eventually when I got my driver's license and had a context to be working on them. And then just made sure that all of my occupations reflected that afterwards, except for a weird brief stint in the lighting industry. But I don't know, for inspiration, I mean, it really is just, I think I went to my first automotive race when I was, into lawn tractors, but hadn't made the transition to street or off-road vehicles of any high grandeur yet. And I got to walk through the pits, and it was just, I wanted to understand everything I was seeing. And so from that point on, I needed to make sure that I was involved with understanding and dictating, how these designs were going to go forward as such.
Your passion really shows, and you have so many people working on this with you that no doubt are just as excited, just as passionate about this. And, when you bring out something like the Rally Fighter, after so much work and so many people working on it, that just has to be an amazing, euphoric feeling. How did the community react, to having finished a project, to kind of the triumph of that?
Well, I mean, you speak for the community is a hard thing to do, but the answer is, what I would say is, it's about the car, stupid. As they say about the Palestinian. As they say about Palestinian conflict, it's about the land, stupid. And and in America in a recession, it's about jobs, stupid. And for us, it's about cars. And the fun thing about the community is it's pretty simple. We're not here to make sporting goods. We're not here to make firearms. We're not here to make music. We're not here to make architecture. We're not here to make furniture. We're here to work on vehicles. And so when you raise your hand and you say, this is my passion, this is what I love, and there are many other people who feel that same way, and you stay true to bringing a co-created car out that's awesome from the get-go, you're going to get great reactions. I mean, you have to ask them individually how they felt about it, because it means so much more than me saying it. But they've just loved our passion and staying up with it and making it happen. And that's been critical.
Excellent. Yeah, it's so evident in the community. And you were just out at Maker Faire in California with both Siemens and Pinoco. On your site, you have a nice big image that says, "Inspiring a world of automakers." It is indeed, and it looks like you're moving more towards a maker-centric site, adding more competition. You have urban bikes, a Peterbilt big rig. That's next. Really? I mean, that's incredible. How is the community reacting to this part?
So, I mean, the fact here is that when you think, we start playing on words, when we say empowering a world of automakers, the point is that everybody knows what an automaker is, but they don't think so much about that. The word maker is in there. And really, when it comes to it, comes down to it, that's the central building block, right, of doing vehicles. You got to be able to make stuff. And so it doesn't matter whether it's a trike or a big rig. It's all of the building blocks that come into it to be able to make that happen. And I'd say how the community's reacting at Maker Faire, the real aha moment as the booths were stacked with people making plastic rockets 3 deep, people would see the real steel on the desk that had been cut using our Fab Shop capability and designed in Design One. And they said, wait a second. This isn't, an SLA, Objet, Z Corp, a Stratasys, 3DS, you pick 'em 3D printer. This is something that has material properties that can hold a wheel onto a control arm.
Yeah.
And that was just incredible. And it stopped people in their tracks. I mean, for the people who knew what they were talking about or knew what they had seen, there is this, it feels like the web in 94. I mean, oft heard quotes at maker fairs are, hold on, that woman's got a dragon on her hand. But don't worry, she's wearing a glove, so it won't hurt her. Or watch out, there's a cupcake. There's a cupcake. Don't get hit. So, I mean, there is a lot of just Wild West ridiculousness. But when people come by and they say, hold on, I see how this business model got applied to making an upright for a control arm in a day's time with 30 people collaborating on it, that suddenly makes sense.
Yeah, you can only see so many little plastic bunnies on the desk before you get tired and you want to see something real.
Right. Oh, excellent.
Well, now, not to denigrate plastic bunnies. They're, cupcake mobiles are awesome, bunnies. You have to admit. But I'm a big fan. But, I mean, but on that topic, talking about Maker Faire, I mean, Maker Faire is such a cool thing. It's such a cool movement, the whole maker movement, that I think Josh and I talk a lot about how the maker movement has a lot to do with kids and about inspiring kids to want to make things. And that's definitely true in the local motor community as well, I think. How are children and young people a part of local motors, and what are you guys doing to inspire young automakers? So
the chief automotive analyst for Gartner Group recently said that the iPhone is the new Ford Mustang. And to that, I say, bullshit. There is absolutely no way we can abdicate our nation's and our world's love for the mechanical product and the car to an iPhone. I love iPhones and Androids and whatnot because they do make your life better in many ways, but you can't, take your sweetheart on a date in an iPhone. And the bottom line is that we have abdicated the experimentation and the learning by doing to Steve Jobs and the folks that have invented the App Store. And it's not fair for the young people in our nation to think that that's the only place that they can be creative. And so our message to them is, we're here for you, and we are here to make it possible for you to ask the stupid questions and to do the stupid things so that you can ask the great questions at the same time and learn the important lessons. And you can invent tokamak reactors and nuclear fusion and Mars rovers and other things like that, because you're sure as crap not going to invent it on an iPhone. And you're going to invent it by getting out there and working on things that are moving and taking people around. You got to move the heavy atoms, not just the bits.
Yeah, I got a chance at Maker Faire to talk to a couple of app designers. And, they come from other areas, and the biggest challenge for them, the thing they always have to think about is, how do I keep this simple enough to be an app? And how do I boil down what somebody is allowed to do with my program to some very, very simple list of rules and laws and abilities? And man, if you're defining people's creativity and their ability to express their uniqueness through something that is developed with that kind of a mindset, that is doom, man. That sucks.
Them's fighting words, and some very good points.
Well, believe it or not, friends, this is all the time we have. Jay, Alex, guys, man, having you on the show has been even better than that time Josh fell down the stairs in an embarrassingly tight Transformer costume made of leg warmers and burnt cardboard. Thanks so much for being on the show with us.
Hey, we had a great time, guys. You guys really are keeping it real, and just having the discourse has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
If you would like to send burnt cardboard pieces to EVDHQ, exclude the leg warmers, and address it to Josh.
Engineer vs. Designer appreciates those comments and the ones that you scream into the night during your EVD-induced night terrors. We want to hear about those. So head over to EngineerVsDesigner.com and let us know what you think about it.
And if you're interested in being liked, tweeted, or +1, be sure to like us, tweet us, or +1 us, because social media has been correlated with retweets, jitters, shakes, hives, abnormalities, being followed by your local car dealerships.
That's confusing and random. The show was edited by Simon Martin. Our theme music is by Ross Hartman.
We'll see you next week, and remember, without engineers, designers would have books of cool-looking car designs and nothing that goes vroom.
And without designers, engineers would go vroom on nothing but an engine block with a seatbelt and a cup holder.
Ha ha! I love that idea.
A production of EBD Media.